I now want to discuss news from the DC universe that broke this week, and that was CNBC reported Dan Lin, who produced the Lego movie, isn't taking the DC film and TV chief role at Warner Brothers. It was also reported earlier in the year that Emma Watts, who was a former executive at Paramount and 20th Century Studios, didn't take the job in the spring. So why is this job so hard to fill?
Well, I don't want to presuppose. I think some of Dan Lin's obstacles were related to a production company that he currently owns and the financial shenanigans regarding that. That being said, I mean, I'm not sure it's a job that anyone would want.
Why?
And well, I mean, a super quick history of the DC universe since 2013. They come out of the gate saying, we want a cinematic universe like what the MCU has. Zack Snyder's going to be our architect. It's going to be dark. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be a deconstructionist, mythological plot over character universe. It's going to be something different than what Marvel does. All due respect, and without getting into the discourse, it doesn't work. Man of Steel is a severely front-loaded film, only makes 668 worldwide. I mean, domestically, it made 291, which means it, while Superman Returns made 206 in 2006, that means it only sold 15% more tickets than Superman Returns, which can mostly be chalked up to the 3D bump, because in IMAX, which was not a mainstream thing in 2006, and generalized curiosity over the notion of a Chris Nolan produced Superman movie. Then, 2.5 years later, Batman v Superman was supposed to be, the backdoor pilot to the entire DC universe. It gets terrible reviews. It becomes the most front-loaded movie ever to open above $100 million. It makes 873 million worldwide, 330 domestic, objectively strong numbers, but off of a $424 million global opening weekend. And then they, react to that by finagling Suicide Squad into something it was never supposed to be. It was pitched and conceived as sort of a David Ayer film, which means Fast and the Furious meets superheroes. Because of the reception to Batman v Superman, because of the reception to Deadpool, because of the reception to Guardians of the Galaxy, it was retroactively reconfigured by the studio into a terribly reviewed and relatively indifferent received movie that still was a hit because it was a big superhero movie starring Will Smith. That was a huge boon overseas. It was the first appearance in live action of Harley Quinn. The film still makes 325 domestic and 745 worldwide. However, Justice League opens in November of 2017, having been completely recombobulated at the request of the studio. Zack Snyder steps down, allegedly after a loss in the family, but it's clear they were not seeing eye to eye in terms of what Snyder wanted to do versus what Warner Brothers wanted. Warner Brothers basically wanted a Diet Avengers. So they bring on Joss Whedon to give them a Diet Avengers. Unfortunately, we've already had the Avengers. We've had 2 Avengers films between 2012 and 2015. So when Justice League comes out as just a Diet Avengers, audiences are like,
We want the real thing, yeah.
and that's often the problem with Hollywood trying to replicate the success of the MCU. They try to offer, it's King Arthur, but it's a superhero film. It's The Mummy, but it's a superhero film. It's Solo, a Star Wars story, which is kind of a superhero film. And what do we know about politics when Democrats run as kind of sort of Republicans in red states to try to win in the midterm elections? People say, why would I vote for this diet Republican who I know isn't sincere because I know they're a Democrat, when I can just vote for the genuine article and vote for a Republican?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So do you think that the right person in this role could help DC see the success that Marvel sees?
Well, here's the problem. They had the right guy. After Justice League underwhelmed with $659 million on a $300 million budget, they brought in Walter Hamada from New Line, and he was best known as the guy that helped turn The Conjuring into the first, and I would argue only, unmitigatedly successful post-Avengers cinematic universe. Those films were a series of interconnected but loosely connected, R-rated period piece religious horror films that have made $2 billion worldwide over 7 or 8 films.
And I've seen every single one.
Yeah, Warner Brothers will yell at me if I count The Curse of La Llorona as a Conjuring film, but who are we kidding? Um, but anyway, and under his tutelage, we get Aquaman, which was still in development, before he came on, but I'm pretty sure he and James Wan will see eye to eye on most things. That film made a $1.148 billion in late 2018. Shazam earned good reviews and 360 worldwide on a 90 budget. Joker made $1 billion on a $65 million budget, won 4 Oscars, got a Best Picture nomination, became the biggest grossing R-rated movie of all time, and is still the third biggest no China, no problem box office grosser of all time. So it's the third biggest movie behind Top Gun Maverick and Spider-Man No Way Home to never play in China. And absent COVID, Wonder Woman 84 would have been a solid hit. Again, I don't think it would have done $1 billion, but I think 650 to 750 was pretty safe. The Batman would have been a critically acclaimed box office smash, which it still turned out to be.
Mhm.
I still think the Suicide Squad was probably doomed because you were making a sequel to a movie that wasn't all that well received the first time, without Will Smith, without Batman, without the Joker. And those are 3 of the big elements that helped make that film a hit the first time around. That being said, it was a good movie. It did get good reviews, and Warner Brothers would have gotten some extra credit for getting James Gunn and giving him $180 million to make basically a trauma film in the DC universe. Was that a good commercial idea? Maybe not. But would it probably have been received as a, for the love of the game, we can do what Marvel can't, ha ha ha, minor league success story? Following all of these other successes and following what I presume would have been the success of Wonder Woman 84 and the Batman. Yes. But what happened? COVID happened. COVID kneecapped Wonder Woman 1984. Jason Killer used that one as the sacrificial lamb for the year-long Project Popcorn event. That was the one big movie in late 2020 and 2021 that was offered up on HBO Max and in theaters concurrently that would have guaranteed to be a huge smash had it opened in 2020 under non-COVID circumstances. What's the other thing that happened? Jason Killer and AT&T need more HBO Max content. We're in a pandemic. Nothing's being made. So they pay Zack Snyder and friends $70 million to make a 4-hour Snyder cut of Justice League. Was the film a huge hit? No. Was it relatively well watched in terms of, and did it do what it needed to do in terms of getting HBO Max in the front of every media outlet out there and keep HBO Max at the top of the media ball game? Yes, it did. Did it keep post-production houses that were otherwise struggling open for business during the early days of the pandemic? Yes, it did. And for nothing else, that was a moral good.